All right. Hey, everybody. So I'm Tara.
I'm Anthony.
And I'm Javon.
And for our presentation, we picked Medea Gets a Job. So a Google search told me that this play was Black comedy, which is definitely true. However, I think there's also some other categories it can fit in. It's definitely a musical and a drama for sure. The theme throughout the play that I noticed is that lesson to not take one's life for granted. Through Medea's moments of advice and wisdom, we can learn that even though people make mistakes, that does not mean that you're a bad person. And the play kind of reiterates that we can learn from our mistakes as we grow. Um, I also noticed a common theme between the characters. They all kind of shared a sense of loneliness throughout the retirement home. And this plot summary is when Medea is sentenced to 20 hours of community service at Easy Rest Retirement Home, she takes the lead as the home's wise and religious support system. And through comedy and drama, this play introduces us to the trials and tribulations of a variety of characters we can also relate to. Let's go to the next slide. Whoa. Oh,
All right. So the structure of Medea, what I got was more as a linear and episodic. I mainly say it was linear because the story mainly started when Medea entered her life, which acts as the starting point of the story. And then it follows throughout the days and her time, Medea's time at the East West retirement home. And it technically kind of ended once she left the building where her job was actually completed. And why I say it was episodic is because the fact that the story wasn't based on one main plot, but like 5 to 6 different plots of each characters with their own separate problems. And most of the characters didn't too much overlap. They stayed in a um, respected zones or character stories. And it was more like the only thing they had mostly in common was Medea was part of their route and helping them solve a problem or solution for it, which acts as an episode for the general part where it was oh yeah, these people is lonely and they have problems that need to be solved, and Medea acts as the problem solver in the entire play.
so looking at the characters, there were a ton of characters throughout this play, and I feel like they all have some pretty big importance. First, we have Carla and Alan. So Carla is the head of Easy Rest Retirement Home. She's first seen going through heartbreak over a doctor who was married and left his wife for somebody else, not Carla. And she's just kind of given up hope and her belief in God. And her objective over the whole play seems to, find love and some type of fulfillment in her life. And then Alan, a security guard at the facility, is in love with her and spent the majority of the play trying to win her over. As I said before, that sense of loneliness, um, Alan, Alan's mother died, and that's why he's always at the home, even when he's like past his hours. He kind of just sticks around. And then Carla's also lonely as well. We've got Mrs. Watson and Sue Ellen. So Mrs. Watson is a patient with Alzheimer's at Easy Rest Retirement Home. She doesn't speak for most of the play, and her daughter Sue Ellen comes in every day for 10 to 12 hours at a time to read to her and try to get her to talk. When Mrs. Watson is lucid, her objective is just to go home. She's lonely. She wants to come home with Sue Ellen. Sue Ellen kind of faces this guilt of leaving her mom in this home, but her husband is overseas and there's just a lot going on in her life, so she's unable to. And Sue Ellen's objective is to talk to her mother, though she very rarely talks. Then we've got Dahlia, who is a worker at Easy Rest Retirement Home. She's married to Malik, a security guard for the same facility. They face marital issues as she doesn't want him to visit his ex, thus not seeing his son. And her objective is to have a drama-free relationship with her husband that does not include his past. We've got Barbara, who was left at Easy Rest retirement home by her daughter, Jennifer. She continuously carries a grudge toward her other daughter, Rebecca, for supposedly mortgaging her house and being into drug dealing and prostitution. Her goal is to get back the life she dreamed of, like in her own home with her husband, and she longs for what she feels like she missed out on. We've got Carson, another patient at Easy Rest Retirement Home. He feels a sense of loneliness and tries to reach out to his son to reconnect. However, his son doesn't want anything to do with that. He feels like he's been abandoned by his father. And Carson's objective is to rebuild that relationship. Hattie Maylove is another patient. She's quirky, high-strung. She's a big comedic relief of the play. Her and Medea are old friends, which makes the play even more comedic with them together. She was left at Easy Rest Retirement Home by her sister, and though she's a huge comedic part of the play, she's also very lonely and strives for that love and affection, especially from Carson. And then last but not least, we have Medea, or Mabel. She's a wise yet comedic and rambunctious woman who was sentenced to 20 years of 20 hours of community service at Easy Rest Retirement Home. She develops relationships with the rest of the cast through her stories, her advice, her religious tellings, and her objective of the play, first of all, is to get that paper sign saying that she did her time, but also to shed some light and wisdom on those who are troubled and seem to have lost their way. And the other characters see her as a maternal figure. A big thing that I noticed in the play at the very beginning, all the cast sings a song called Grandma's Hands, and they're kind of referring to that maternal, God-fearing figure in their life who's like a protective force over them, and it's kind of foreshadowing the presence that Medea has throughout the musical.
Okay, so Rotten Tomatoes audience score gave this film a 4.5 out of 5, which is an average score out of 2,459 votes. IMDb user ratings gave this play a 4.3 out of 5. This play was done in 2013, and though there isn't a lot of critique on the play itself, there is a lot of criticism over Tyler Perry as a director himself. Spike Lee describes his plays as a show of buffoonery. Charlemagne has also had a very critical response to Tyler Perry movies, calling Four Colored Girls a horror movie for African-American girls, and also said that he tends to make African-American men look bad. Even Judge Joe Brown has critiqued Tyler Perry's play, saying that he doesn't think that men dressing like women is good for the African-American community. Tyler Perry has responded to some of this criticism by saying his plays tell another side of the African-American story, and he believes these stories need to be told. Regardless of any criticism of the content by Tyler Perry, millions of viewers watch and enjoy his films, and Tyler Perry continues to grow. And then we could go ahead and play the video.
Okay. Can we see that?
There is a sense of, in our community, I remember having people come to me, and if I had interviewed the president, they say, oh, that's great, but then we'd look at our numbers. But if I had interviewed Whitney or Oprah, the numbers were much, much bigger. There's a school of thought that says, oh, we're not diversifying our imagery enough in our community yet. There are certain images, whether they be in plays or movies or music, that we flock to, whether we like to admit it or not. I'm wondering, is that just the Black middle class saying, oh, no, that's not what we want, but the lot of us wanting it?
Well, I mean, this is a complex subject, because each artist should be allowed to pursue the artistic endeavor. But I still think there a lot of stuff that's on today is coonery and buffoonery. And I know it's making a lot of money, breaking records, but we could do better. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'm a huge basketball fan, and when I watch the games on TNT, I see these two ads for these two shows, and I'm scratching my head. You know, we got a black president. You know, are we going back to Mantan Moreland and sleep and eat?
Yet, if those films, I mean, we're talking about Tyler Perry at this point. No, I mean, look, I'm not saying we're talking. Let's not give them fodder for tabloid. I'm not saying we're talking about Tyler Perry, but those are the shows that we're talking about. If we're talking about that, and we look at the numbers that come and see his movies, that view the shows on TBS, my question is that in fact maybe what Black America wants to see?
A large part.
Look, I hear a lot of no's and ahs, but a lot of people watching it.
Here's the thing, though, because we've had this discussion back and forth because when John Singleton, you know, people came out to see Boys in the Hood, and they did Rosewood, nobody showed up. So a lot of this is on us. A lot of this is on us. You know, you vote with your pocketbook, your wallet, you vote with your time, sitting in front of the idiot box. And the man has a huge audience, and Tyler's very smart. You know what he's done. He started out, you know, with these plays, and church buses would pull up, packed, and he's parlayed it into bought his own jet. You know, you can buy a jet, you got money. But at the same time, for me, just imagery is troubling.
Is there a disappointment from you as a director and an African American that Miracle at St. Anna won't get the same audience as some of the other movies that you will make? And therefore the idea of what we support?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, DVD is a director's best friend. So a lot of people have come up to me and said they like the film a lot, but for whatever reason, they didn't get to see it in the theater, but they definitely got the bootleg or watched on television, pay-per-view. And even if nobody showed up, I wanted to make that film because Hollywood historically has omitted the contribution of 1.1 African-American men and women who fought and died for this country in World War II. And I just got tired of seeing these films again and again and again, which is not give any love to us. The first person to die for this country was a black man, Crispus Attucks. We're not talking, I mean, we're more patriotic than anybody. So when I say something,
but the media,
when I say something,
Okay. All right, so my final takeaway and why we decided to do this play. We collectively kind of selected this play because religion and music is a central focus of it. This is something that has been reiterated throughout this entire course as Black culture and ways of life. The emphasis on the gospel music filled with soulful voices and body movements accurately depicted what we have learned in this course. So we thought that we would have a base to kind of relate this to. I really enjoyed this play personally. It was filled with humor and touching moments, songs. I'm a big musical theater person, so it was nice. The music added to it. I love the fact that there seemed to be a lot of improv from Tyler Perry himself throughout the whole play. He broke the fourth wall a lot and spoke to the audience, made jokes. Even though like that may seem like unprofessional, I think it added a lot more to this play. It showed realness and his connection with the audience. Kind of going off what Spike Lee said, I agree to an extent. I don't agree with when it comes to this play in particular, I think this was a mellowed, like, it wasn't a typical Tyler Perry, in my opinion, over the top kind of play. Before this one, on accident, before watching this one, I watched Medea Goes to Jail and Medea's Big Happy Family, because I miscommunication, I misread. But I watched those and I was just like, I was mad. Like, like the way that they portray Black women, particularly in Medea's Big Happy Family, I was mad. I was real mad. And I don't know if that's exactly what he was trying to do or if it was just to get some laughs from people. But yeah, I agree with Spike Lee when it comes to that. However, this one, I liked this one. It was pretty good.
Okay, so for me, I agreed to do this play because Medea was a play that I grew up on. It was something that even my grandma enjoyed watching. My elders and my younger siblings could watch Medea together because the plays contain so many elements. Contained within this plays are elements of drama, comedy, religion, and relationships. These elements are portrayed through real life situations of African Americans. They touch a broad range of emotion and demonstrate the difficult situations in adult life that aren't often discussed. While watching these plays, the viewer can learn life situations as well as enjoy the comedy of the play. It is definitely a play I would recommend. It shows some of the realities of African American modern culture. Though Spike Lee and Charlemagne have critiqued these plays negatively, I believe they are valuable to the African American community because they help us laugh and they also teach us lessons about life and how to handle certain situations.
And why I agreed to do this was because mainly Medea stuff, like I usually was grown up to it, so I usually watched the movies. But what's interesting for me is that I never actually watched the plays itself, like the play movies. So technically this was my first time ever watching a Medea play. And when I actually ended up liking it because it's more like it felt like the movie. Like I thought because it was a play, it felt different, but it didn't felt too much different. And I liked the movie how it was talking about certain topics in like a unique setting, more like that, because it's in a rest home. Like most people would be like, oh, this is happening with their lives. Like they just use those, and I found out it's strange. And another thing is some of the things that they said kind of made me actually reflect on some of the things in my life. Like, but that's like another thing. And then it was more like funny. It had some jokes and that had me cracking up. And and the last thing, and it was more like it was like Medea did a good job reflecting more aspects of my life. So I more likely kind of relate to like a few things from it, which I found it was more surprising. And from Spike Lee, it was more like I agree to him, like you said, to an extent, because it more like the movies usually portray like Black women to always be like they always have problems and they always need a man to solve the problem.
Great.
And I feel like it was more like that's a problem, but like Medea the job didn't felt like that too much because all of them had like parent relationship, like platonic relationships, and handling already established relationships, so they wasn't more single. So I was like, Spike Lee thing won't too much apply to this because this one was more like a mellow version of it.
Well, I think that is about it. So thank you.
Thank you.